You know, Lucas, we work really hard for our fans.
So
All
hard.
three of them.
Don't get that big of an ego. Oh, we have more than 3.
Do we?
Well, I don't know.
We have 70-something likes on Facebook, but that's besides the point, I guess. We've had a heck of a time getting this GTA 5 review to you, so...
Yeah, enough with the self-pity. Let's talk about some Grand Theft Auto.
Oh,
Because
yeah!
that's what everyone wants to hear.
Shooting cops, and I actually haven't encountered any hookers in this game yet. Did you?
What? How have you not encountered hookers? They're everywhere. I mean, it depends on where you go in the city, but...
I haven't interacted with any hookers, I guess, is the preemptive
yeah,
thing
neither
to
have I.
say.
I mean,
okay.
they like to yell at me, but I'm like, no, I have a yellow dot to attend to on my mini map. I need to get to that. I need to shoot some people. That way I can make some money and start the process all over again.
Okay, let's get right into it. We're gonna probably divide up this review into 3 chunks: story, gameplay, and presentation. And that seems like a pretty decent format to go. So, Lucas, I'm interested to hear, what are your thoughts on the story?
Story? Well, I haven't finished it yet. Have you yet?
No.
No?
But
okay.
Who can blame us at over 100 hours of gameplay and 3 separate main characters?
Even when I don't do that many of the side missions, I try
me
to stick
too.
with just the main ones, and even then, it's a hefty game. There's a lot of content in there. But from what I've found so far, I really like it. The intro was
Let's first describe to people what the main summary, but the gist of it.
Okay,
yeah.
So basically, it takes place in Los Santos in San Andreas, or like San Andreas next door, or what exactly?
It's basically LA.
Okay, so basically Southern California, big city, LA,
pretty area.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of diversity to it. I like the desert and everything. But anyways, back to the story. It's 3 protagonists. You got Franklin, Trevor
and Michael.
And Michael, yeah. And
Michael is probably the main part of that trio. He's the primary focus point.
Yeah, he's who you start out as.
Yeah, and Or
did you start out as Franklin? I can't remember.
No, you started
I guess
Michael.
if it starts, talk about the prologue. It's Michael.
Yeah, the prologue.
Trevor.
Yeah.
Because Michael and Trevor have history. Franklin's the new guy, and so that's what the whole plot revolves around. Is the fact that Trevor and Michael haven't seen each other for 10 years. They used to rob banks.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. The main gist of the story: Michael, a former gangbanger who used to perform heists, rob banks, and shoot little old ladies. After a bust gone fairly bad, decides to go into a witness protection program and sort of sort out his life. He has a family, 2 kids, a wife, and not everything is going so hot. That's kind of the jumping off point, is he's sick of living this typical LA life.
He's living the dream and he hates it. He's totally wealthy. He's got a family and everything. He lives in the hills in this giant mansion with a tennis court and a pool, nice snazzy cars with dollar symbol
and it's just
rims.
not enough. It's not what he wants, and that's sort of why he goes back into crime.
He's addicted to the game, to the thrill of heists and whatnot, and so he gets himself involved back in, and that's how he ends up reuniting with Trevor and finding Franklin.
Franklin is a younger sort of street thug who...
Yeah, he's an up-and-coming.
The impression I got off of him is he thinks he's surrounded by idiots, and he's right.
Yeah, he's
Lamar
really trying to break away.
Is a numbskull.
I love Lamar. I really hope there's DLC with Lamar and Franklin,
this game,
because their conversations, it's great too, because I think they really know how great the conversations are, because I feel like theirs go on longer than other characters.
Because he's just such an aggravating character to Franklin. And
Franklin really is his big brother who's always got to save him out. And Lamar is totally admitting to that. He's like, of course you are, but that's what you're supposed to do. So whenever Franklin gets mad at him for saving his buddy, he's like, why are you mad at me? That's what you're supposed to do. Franklin's like, no,
I can't keep doing
We're going
this.
Up now.
And so Franklin, feeling stuck in that zone, sort of randomly ends up meeting Michael, and the story goes on from there. Trevor, who you meet maybe a couple hours into the main plot, words don't really describe Trevor, because he would probably shoot and then disembowel the words.
Yeah, I liked his. You have your phone in the game too that you can use for text messaging, emails, missions, buying stuff. You could play it on the stock market. I like that. That's an interesting aspect. But in one text he sends to someone, he's like, "I will rip off your head and urinate into the corpse and like drink the blood, and like he's just crazy. And he's like, and I have done that before, by the way. But he's an absolute psychopath.
You can't
it's hilarious
expect anything from him because he will always do something unexpected.
Yeah,
that's the true. He is the Joker in GTA Incarnate.
He's the wild card. And it's interesting because all three of these main protagonists you can switch to not whenever you want, but for the most part whenever you want, unless you're like in a story or in a mission in the story, in which case the game says no, you can only play this character.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense otherwise.
But it's well done. But it's funny because whenever you transfer to someone, they're always like kind of in the middle of something, so they'll be waking up from a nap, or like they'll have just gotten back from like Michael will have just gotten back from a bike ride with his son.
Trevor will be dumpster diving.
No, Trevor will be on a beach with no clothes on other than a sundress, and he'll have a couple beer bottles around him and a dozen dead biker gang members just all strewn about the beach, and he's like, "Whoa, that was a crazy night." And and then you stumble back to the city in nothing but boots and a dress and like a handgun.
So with regards to the story, getting away from the main characters, I think, in my opinion, I am enjoying the story so far. I really am. But my biggest gripe is the part where it's best is in individual chunks. Individual scenes or cut scenes or portions of the storyline are brilliant as these encapsulated little pieces. So you'll get a scene early on with Franklin sneaking through a rich Beverly Hills house, and if you fail, there's a line of dialogue. I won't spoil it for you, but it's an absolutely hilarious sort of racial, cultural satire, and I busted up laughing. And there's other examples of that along the way, but my problem with the game, as far as story goes, is as a whole, it's feeling somewhat hollow so far.
It really is. Most of like the enjoyment from the story comes from just listening to the characters, and then I guess like the heist and the fact that like as you progress through the story, the heists get bigger and more elaborate and more entertaining. And one thing I really like about the whole game is pretty much revolved around heists. And the cool thing is that as the heists get more complex, there's a lot of kind of mini missions before the heist. So there's all this build up leading up to the heist. You got to maybe steal some cars or a giant drill or place a speedboat.
The glasses in that first heist mission to survey the area so you know what you're getting into is really
so there's just a lot of like pre-planning, and it just makes the build up worth it. And that way when you actually do the heist, it just feels more exhilarating because you're like, all right, I've just spent the last hour doing all this prep work for it. Now we're actually going to go in and do it. And it makes like, sometimes the heist can only be like 5-10 minutes long, but I mean, it's exhilarating.
You'll remember it for a good long while. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the story or?
One thing I don't like is the fact that it's kind of just like all the factions of sorts. They're all just like corrupt. Did you notice that? Like the
how
FIB,
everyone and everything is corrupt?
Everything is corrupt. They're like, we're kind of corrupt. And it's like, well, why are they shooting at us? Well, they're corrupt as well, but they're a different kind of corrupt. And that really is kind of the terminology they use. They just say corrupt all the time. Like this branch of the government is fighting this corrupt branch of the government, which is being corrupted by another corrupt branch of the government. Corrupt.
I guess that's part of what you're getting into with GTA, though, is that nobody in this game is an actual good person. That is, in fact, one of the overarching themes is that dichotomy between I want to, live a good life, but I'm slaughtering people while I'm doing, and I'm like losing people, that I care about while I'm doing it.
Yeah, and then on one last note, being devil's advocate again, the game's pretty misogynistic. It's pretty anti-women. There's none of the main characters, and I'm not just talking about the three playable protagonists, because there are other main characters, but they are all men. They are all literally men, and a lot of times when women are introduced, they're kind of just sporadic and idiotic.
Especially Franklin's aunt.
Franklin's
a yoga obsessed, and like health nut. Who's just sits on the couch all day.
And... No, they don't sit on the couch. They get up in their spandex and they go running, and they are literally chanting, "We are women. We are strong. We are women." And they're just like these weird, overly feminist, and it's just strange. And it makes them look stupid.
Though. I get that because that's part of the satire is these LA types who in absence of being poor have all the time in the world to come up with these crazy activities to do, like this yoga, this female empowerment yoga. Not that there's anything wrong with female empowerment, but the way it's presented in that high and mighty fashion, you
can definitely tell Rockstar is making fun of them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just upset me that there were no like main.
I get that though.
Because like okay, it's like Red Dead Redemption, like Bonnie. I loved Bonnie. Bonnie was great. She was always interesting. She played a pivotal role in the game, and she was there for the vast majority of it. She was there for
most of it. Yeah. All right, moving on to let's do gameplay next because that's a big chunk of this, obviously. Well, guys, it's Grand Theft Auto. It plays like Grand Theft Auto. And good news, it plays like a slightly, and I stress that word, slightly improved Grand Theft Auto.
It really is slightly. Honestly, gameplay is one of the big things that's kind of always drawn me away from Rockstar games. Yeah. The auto lock, once again, it's still incredibly strong. But my problem is that the auto lock will stay on the characters even after they die. So you'll take down an enemy, and then like as they're falling to the ground, it's like, wait, I need to start shooting that other guy. But your crosshair keeps following that, and it just makes it difficult switching from target to target.
Yeah, I tried turning it off, and then I was like, oh no, I'm playing.
And then that's too difficult because there isn't even a slight assist. Most games have an assisted aim. I don't think a lot of people realize that because they've gotten so used to it, because it's so common in so many shooters to have an auto assist, and because it's always just slight. It's just very slight and kind of unnoticeable.
It's very noticeable because when you're shooting across,
I'm talking about other shooters.
Yeah, with Grand Theft Auto, it's very noticeable because you're shooting across these vast expanses. Sometimes I was just going down a random alley, and they couldn't have been more than a couple hundred yards away, but it was impossible to get a beat on them because of I turned off the auto aim, and that was not helping. But then auto aim is a cheat, I feel. Yeah.
And then player movement is still, once again, it's just bad. I'm sorry, but it's just bad. It's so slow and sluggish. Like for example, you'll end up running into a lot of walls. You'll be in a firefight, and you have to like hold the X or A depending on what console you're playing on, but you have to hold that to sprint, and it's kind of like why do I have to like do that? Because if you don't hold that, then you're walking at literally like a half a mile an hour pace,
a light jog essentially, which is kind of not what you want to do in a firefight.
And I feel like it's such a small gripe, but at the same time, it's when you have to put your finger onto that one button and hold it down to sprint, you can't look around.
Not just hold it down, you have to tap it repeatedly.
Yeah, that too. I've always thought that was weird.
They honestly should have done something along the lines of what the Uncharted series did. Was if it's a portion of the game where you know that nothing's gonna come out and shoot you, a light jog, it works cinematically, it works gameplay wise because you want to look around, you want to experience the environment. In the middle of a firefight with everything going on, the character would automatically switch over to full on sprint if you moved anywhere, like because that's what you would just want to do. You would want to be as fast as possible.
Yeah, it just makes sense. But for some reason it's not there, and it does kind of kill the mood in firefights. And I have died. My characters died several times because I'm just so slow and like I can't clip onto the wall.
Going between cover to cover is it's a chore more than
cover is better though. I've noticed in Grand Theft Auto 4 they did improve on that
slightly. I stress again. Driving is pretty similar in the game. Honestly, this is where one of my biggest gripe comes. I tried one of the earlier racing missions on like a street racing mission, against a bunch of gearheads and everything. And I had a sports car, obviously, because that's what you want to drive in a race. And
I drive ice cream trucks when I can, but please continue. You're a sports car. Also, by the way, side note, quick before you get into your racing story, you can change the horns, and one of the horns is like a clown horn. Where it's like do 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 do.
Of course,
and I do that as I'm speeding 400 miles an hour through traffic with my submachine gun out the roof, shooting random pedestrians who don't deserve the mayhem that I ensue. But that's Grand Theft Auto. Let's be honest, the heart of Grand Theft Auto is just messing things up.
Screwing around. Driving cars though is still a bit of a hassle. If you're driving a more typical model like a sedan or a truck or something like that, it's much easier. But sports cars handle like I'm a one-armed helicopter pilot or something like that. I would clip so much as a bag of trash during this race, and it totally threw me off. I ended up facing the opposite direction because I hit something so small, or I
spin out
so much, and it really becomes like. You really look forward to those long highway drives, just going straight down. Yeah, just go straight.
only slightly adjusting ever so often to weave in and out of traffic.
And it's also worth noting that, like, during the missions where you're forced to chase after someone in a car, that tendency to completely spin out will screw up so many missions for you because you have to keep a tail on these guys. And you can't do that when so much as hitting the rear view mirror or the side mirror of a little Volkswagen will total you.
Yeah, because the people you chase will never mess up.
No,
they're
pretty much.
They're controlled by the computer, and computer makes no mistakes.
Other than that, there is a ton of things to do in this game, and that's really where part of the charm comes from. Is you can be this crime lord, and with the benefits that brings, you can reap all the benefits of it. You can play tennis, you can do the racing missions. There's tons of side missions involving a very colorful cast of characters. One of my favorites so far has been the paparazzi guy. I'm assuming you've done him.
I did a little bit, but then he's like, I'm going to be a celebrity now, which I thought was really funny. He's like, and it won't change me at all.
Yeah, one of the interesting missions with him was chasing a limousine while he's on the back of your motorcycle basically, and he's telling you, get up real close to it. And so I can take a photo of this like celebrity being a total, weirdo and everything. And it was very fun. The writing, again, another example of that scene by scene writing that's just so charming and funny. Let's see, presentation, or do you have anything else to say about gameplay?
Not that I can think of.
All right, presentation. Last little bit here. The game itself lends itself to more beauty than GTA 4 ever had. GTA 4 was obviously Liberty City, the New York style ripoff.
GTA 4 was just like dirty and
glum and
mucky,
gloom and
dark.
A very dark
everywhere.
game. But with Los Santos being LA, and I can appreciate this so much because I recently went to vacation in the LA area. It is so much prettier, and there is something to be said for that. Hold on one second, guys. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey, folks, we're back. Sorry about that. We may or may not have alluded to this earlier, but we're kind of recording this by the seat of our pants today due to some mix-ups. But we're getting right back into it. So, presentation for GTA 5. It's a sort of a incremental increase as far as graphics are concerned, but still not as much. The game looks prettier because the setting is prettier. We were talking about
the graphics really aren't, they're not mind-blowing. They're just not that good. You can really tell that. I feel like it's a good testament to showing how it now is the right time to switch to a new console, or really now's the time for a new console to come out, because these ones have been pushed pretty much to their limits.
I would you can always find it to be on a next gen console. That's what I thought was happening, was they were going to do, it's on every console kind of deal to make as much money as humanly possible.
They may, you never know.
But yeah, there have been some quotes out there that says developers claim the game is larger than Red Dead and GTA 4 and some other game combined, which honestly makes sense because you cannot drive across this game in under 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty
blast.
enormous. Even in the jets take forever.
Yeah. And there's lots of customization. You can obviously deck out your clothes, deck out your car. I've got all my characters basically bearded.
See, the one thing I like that you can clothe all your characters, but I stopped doing it almost immediately because you can switch between the characters, but whenever you switch between characters, it's almost guaranteed that they're going to change their clothes back to what their like default settings are. And so it's like, oh, why am I even going to change his clothes when he's just going to change them for me in like 20 minutes?
It lends itself to some sort of believability, like, oh, it's a new day. Obviously, he's not wearing the same gray suit. But yeah, it's annoying because I prefer having this like cool looking suit that I spent a couple grand on. So now I have to walk upstairs, or I have to drive to my house and go to the one place in the entire game that I can sort of, mix and match everything to what I want again.
You should just be able to access clothes through your smartphone. That would have been a funny satire. They just call it. Yeah, they could just call them smartphones, or something like that. I don't know.
Smarty pants.
Oh my god, that's punny. That's so punny.
All right. I think that's all we've got as far as GTA 5 is concerned. We gave a rating when we were recording earlier, but that got jacked up. So if you don't mind, Lucas, I would like to sort of revise my my rating.
Your score.
My score.
Okay.
My score. We are kind of doing it on a letter grade scale, which makes sense. Last time I said A-. After further thought, I'm going to give it a B+.
I'm going to stick with my B-.
B-?
Yeah, it's still great. It's fun to play, but it's not pushing boundaries. It's not absolutely amazing, but I'm definitely enjoying it. Plus I'm really waiting for the online, because I can't wait for that. I can't wait to rob banks with friends just
we'll get
every day over and over and over. But we'll do a completely separate review, because that really is like a completely separate game.
Yeah, a very solid chunk of it. All right, folks, we're going to wrap up here. This has been Button Mash on WCRD 91.3 FM, the Pulse of Ball State. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter under the name Button Mash BSU. That's Button Mash BSU.
Follow us for all the latest gaming news, articles, great pictures, whatever it is you're interested in video games, we'll probably post it.
Talk to us, ask us questions before each episode. We will answer them, because we don't get enough as we want.
And because we're on our smartphones all day.
All day. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good weekend.